was released a short time ago in which he reiterated those false claims.
Hello? We are streaming this insanity again on January 6th. This is Light. I am coming at you live with 3 different news channels we're going to be jumping back and forth between. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe if you like the stream as I shed some light, so to speak, on this insanity.
To the MAGA world, as she puts it. She says, before I worked for the president,
so far there have been multiple shots fired.
She goes on to say, I need you to hear me.
And we are
the election
minutes
was not
away
stolen.
from curfew.
We lost. Strong statements also from Mick Mulvaney, the former chief of staff here, as well as Kellyanne Conway, one of the former top advisors to President Trump, who are essentially urging the president to come out and to make a strong statement and urging the people who stormed the Capitol to stand down. So that is the scene here. I was just speaking to a number
Mike
of
Pence
top
is
officials.
completely done, by the way.
Developments unfold. President Trump himself watching these developments unfold, Savannah, and it's not clear that he has any plans or any intentions to come out and speak this evening. But I can tell you that there is a somber mood here at the White House, and frankly, a number of officials have a stricken look on their face as they watch all of this unfold. Of course, coming just hours after President Trump addressed a crowd of thousands.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Reiterated those false claims of fraud, tried to pressure his own vice president, Mike Pence, to take actions that he cannot take under the law to block the election results from being counted and from announcing the winner as Joe Biden. And there is a sense that in that speech, the president was riling up his supporters.
Of course there is.
This is what has come from a day and weeks of a lot of energy toward trying to relitigate this election. So, Savannah, I can just tell you the pressure is mounting here on President Trump to do more.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty extraordinary to hear from former officials who were diehards, who worked for the president until those last moments, to say it's enough, it's over. What about Vice President Pence? Of course, he was over there at the Capitol presiding over the Senate at this time, and the last best information.
Let's see what is happening.
Leave the Capitol or be subject to arrest. I wanted to show you, too, the visual representation of that. Listen
we are
to this
2 minutes away from curfew.
Curfew is in effect at 1800 hours until 600 hours tomorrow. All individuals must leave the U.S. Capitol grounds or be subject to arrest. I repeat,
there you go.
Curfew is in effect at 1800 hours until 600 hours tomorrow. All individuals must leave the U.S. Capitol grounds or be subject to
How's everybody doing?
That tweet, Greta, from
curfew
Long, senior
is in effect.
Correspondent from the Hill, with that curfew getting underway momentarily.
Okay, I think some shit is about to go down.
In Seattle.
Big time. I think some stuff's going to go down that's really scary when this curfew gets in effect. We've been seeing a lot of insanity today, obviously. I mean, nothing like this has ever happened in American history. But when this, I think that it's the cap and the peak of it is about to hit off here in a few minutes. So stay tuned.
Justin in South Haven, Mississippi. And what about you, Justin?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for taking my call. I just have a question that seems to be a way to find the middle ground, because it seems like most of the people that are calling are very biased towards one or the other political party. But the facts are that almost half of voting age Americans feel like this election has not been fair. And the way that we can
okay, buddy.
hopefully find a way to bridge this huge gap that a lot of callers have spoken about within the country.
Are litigated and relitigated in this type of manner, Savannah.
All right, Kristen, stand by. Thank you so much. I want to go to Pete Williams. Pete,
rioters begin to disperse from Capitol.
More aggressive action on the part of law enforcement to kind of disperse the crowd. We've seen the crowd diminish. What have you learned about the decision-making that's gone on
This is utter
in terms
insanity.
of how to respond
I've never
to
seen
this
anything
afternoon?
as bizarre as this in my entire life.
And answer the question about the vice president first. The initial thought
and
was,
honestly, I don't know if I
all
politically
happened,
ever will
let's
again.
get the vice president out of here. The Secret Service, as I understand it, concluded that there really was no safe way to get him out of the building and away, so he remained there. now he's staying there because the Senate wants to continue. At least the senators in the House want to keep going tonight.
Right.
He has to preside. He is required by the Constitution to preside. So I think the reason he's still there is that at first they didn't know what they were going to do but couldn't get him out of there. Now they want to continue with the...
I am 63 and I have never seen anything like this. If they were blacks, they would have been shot. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, completely right, Chrissy H. from the chat. If these were BLM protesters, they literally would have already been shot. Listen, all of the BLM riots, it is very important to keep in mind that they never shot at the police. They never shot at any fucking federal office building people. They never shot at anybody. And they got an instant response, much more strong than this and much more organized than this, to annihilate all of those protesters mainly. There were some riots at the very beginning, like 2 days, I think.
Was to try to preserve whatever the safety
absolutely
of the members
correct point.
First,
this is unlike anything in American history.
The feeling that I've gotten from talking to other law enforcement people watching this is, yes, the people in the building were overwhelmed, weren't able to stop and start making arrests. They were severely outnumbered. And that, however, a lot of those people that were there are eventually going to be charged and made.
In the chat, let me know, how is the stream coming into you guys? I changed a bunch of settings. I'm dealing with some pretty bad connection issues today, so I want you to let me know in the chat, how is the stream coming into you guys? Is everything real bad and laggy, or is it kind of okay?
And run them down and arrest them and charge them with a number of different offenses. So I think it looks odd to think that these people are simply being escorted off the grounds. And I've had law enforcement people say, I can't believe what I'm seeing, that they're not being arrested. But what we're told is charges ultimately will be filed on a lot of these people. Now, clearly, it would be a lot better if they could just arrest them on the spot.
Good to hear.
But I think the feeling
it's coming in good then.
The law enforcement initially was simply outnumbered.
Well, that I think is the real point. What's really disturbing is that they weren't able to be stopped.
What's that phone?
The chief of police in D.C. said that some of the protesters did use violence against police, but as we've observed as the afternoon has worn on, it is not exactly a surprise that this protest was going on, that there had been talk.
Woman who was shot in the Capitol building has died.
There will be a lot of questions in the
So there has been a murder at the Capitol. This is breaking news.
That's for another day. We're still in a crisis right now.
Dear God.
This is the nation's capital on an evening like no other, where protesters were able to breach the security as Congress
an attack on our country like none has ever seen from a domestic group before is currently ensuing.
To certify electors, to ensure.
And apparently one woman who has been shot at this Capitol attack has now been confirmed to be dead. This is what you got, people, for giving this crazy authoritarian fascist Hitler wannabe the time of day. This is what you got. Look at this. Look at the screen. You see that? This is what you fucking got. I hope you're fucking happy with it. I hope you're real fucking...
Tries to catch up and get this situation under control. We've heard from the president-elect and we've heard from President Trump. And we now turn to Leon Panetta, who, of course, is the former defense secretary under the Obama administration, a former White House chief of staff going back to the Clinton administration, and a former congressman who knows that building well. Secretary Panetta, I guess just before we get into the security measures, I just want your gut, how you feel at this hour, seeing the images that we've all been watching.
Yeah.
Savannah.
In the chat, I guess blue lives don't matter. Apparently so, because they don't have an ideology. I have an ideology. Okay? Joe Biden has an ideology. Many people have an ideology, especially like Bernie has an ideology, right? These people, along with their leader Trump, do not have an ideology. They have a id. They have a psychotic id that they used Trump to scratch. Okay? They are fascists. Fascists just want to fuck things up. They don't have a good plan as to what the fuck to do with a society. So no, blue lives don't matter. The second it's against your group.
Focused, almost defiant in their feeling that they have an obligation to go on and continue this work, even if it goes late into tonight. What do you
if you are
know
just
about,
arriving here,
without
please
giving away
like and
anything, what do you know
subscribe. It
about,
helps out a lot. Brand
the
new
plans
YouTuber
that
here.
would have been in place for something like this. I mean, I talked about it with a little bit with Secretary Napolitano earlier in our coverage, saying, I'm sure you had plans on the shelf for an attack on our Congress. You probably didn't imagine that it would come from inside, from Americans, from our very own people.
Well, as you may know, I signed a letter with all 10 of the former living defense secretaries.
Let's go see what's happening on C-SPAN. This something looks weird over here.
Siege on the Capitol, the People's House.
So this is the National
people
Guard
get
we are currently
tired
looking
of,
at here. They have
parasitic,
deployed hundreds of
politicians
National
who-
Guard at this
who
point
make
to
all
this
these
area.
promises, and they never keep them, and they finally got a president who did. And this is just a culmination of the identity politics. And
I'm
as
not
you can see,
100% sure on this,
they
but
occupied
it looks
the-
to me, does it look to you guys like the situation around this exact spot has been cleared out? Like, I think there were people all over all of this, and they're no longer here. Am I wrong on that, or what do you think?
Who was an advisor to
I
President
believe
Trump,
they may have
Homeland
gotten
Security
some of this under
advisor,
control.
tweets out, "This is beyond wrong and illegal. It's un-American. The president undermined American democracy baselessly for months. As a result, he's culpable for this siege and an utter disgrace. Despite of him, not because of him, police will regain control and prosecute those
do
involved."
believe
And as our
the situation
caller
there
was
has
talking,
changed.
you saw the look like National Guard in riot gear lining up outside of the Capitol. You can see them there. Let's watch.
I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear every once in a while. My stomach is growling like a motherfucker because I have not ate today. This has been too crazy. So if you hear like a monster in the background, I'm sorry. That's just, I'm hungry. Don't worry about it. Okay, we're going to have to switch back to this lowest. I'm so sorry for the low quality, guys. I'm doing all I can. I'm having a random, in the middle of all this, stream death.
United States, what he's
Or not
saying
stream death, but
is not
connection death.
helpful to the law enforcement people that are there now.
Yeah, I
trying to
know.
make sure
Trump
that they
is very
clear the
likely to get
Capitol
impeached.
and
Many
allow
people
it to
are
get back
supportive
to
of
the
it already,
business,
immediately.
Of our democracy. It only goes to show
Ilhan Omar
that,
is drawing up articles of
ultimately,
impeachment.
As he leaves
From
office,
Charity Case in the chat.
he will bear responsibility for what we saw today.
Secretary Panetta, is this a turning point? I mean, after everything that's transpired and, things that have happened that have never happened before, and life just seems to go on as usual. But this is different. Do you feel that this will be a turning point in which members of Congress, your former colleagues, Republicans and Democrats, stand up and say, enough is enough? Or is this just going to be just another day in the Trump administration?
Well, I don't think this can be passed off as just another day.
No.
What we saw happen to the Capitol of the United States and what we saw happen in terms of the interruption of our system of government is a serious event. And I worry that if we don't take steps to come together and govern this country, that the scenes we saw today will inspire others to take advantage of the situation. This is a serious.
Donald Trump single-handedly, accidentally, good for us, broke the GOP. They may be irrelevant for like the next 20 years. Merry Christmas.
This country will determine the answer to that question.
And Secretary Panetta, before I let you go, you're
What
the
a
former
bunch of
CIA
evil
director, your former Defense Department,
buffoons.
the Secretary of Defense. When you think about our adversaries around the world, watching these scenes, what goes through your mind?
Donald Trump.
It's a terrible message that's going out. because our adversaries will see what we have seen today and just sense it as another sign of weakness on the part of the United States. And I worry that because of those scenes, that our adversaries will use that
right now
to take advantage of the United States. This is not a good moment in terms of the image of the United States and the values that we represent. It's a moment where we are very vulnerable to those that want to undermine our democracy.
Secretary Panetta, thank you for your time, sir. We
read
appreciate it. I want to turn to...
So Donald Trump just tweeted, "These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been boldly and unfairly treated badly." Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever. Holy fuck. We may have to invoke the 25th Amendment before anything like impeachment gets talked about. He didn't stop the rioters. This day will be remembered forever. And he is emboldening their cause. This is utter insanity. Well, back to the broadcast. Jesus Christ.
A little bit.
Okay, here we go. Law enforcement is clearing
the DC
people from the Capitol.
Still pushing folks back, wanting everybody here to heed with the 6 p.m. curfew that's now in place in this city, Savannah.
Oh, come on.
And as I mentioned, the FBI, watch out for the bike behind you, the FBI now on site in front of the Capitol building on a day in which, you know, is usually pro forma during an election season, just 2 weeks away from when President-elect Joe Biden will be inaugurated at this very site. And I just want to mention one other note here, Savannah, that I've mentioned throughout the day, but the Capitol was set up for the inauguration already. When we arrived here earlier today, you saw bleachers on both sides of the Capitol. You saw the inauguration balcony in which President-elect Joe Biden on January 20th will walk out and be sworn in as the next president of the United States. Today, that setup, the area in which they have put in place for that inauguration on January 20th, was filled.
Here we go. Hold on.
With rioters and
protesters.
protesters.
We have a dipshit in the chat. Buddy, if you really have such a fragile understanding of these events to think that these people weren't riled up by Donald Trump and that these would have to be leftists. First of all, you're admitting how horrible this is and how horribly optics-wise this is for the Republicans. You think this would have to be leftists disguised. No, these people believe. They believe. If you support them, you probably do. Every word Donald Trump says. And when he says that there are enemies of the country, essentially, that have stolen an election from him, they took it to heart and they're trying to get revenge for them. So no, these are not lefties.
Constitutional duties.
Sorry, buddy.
Because of a throng of protesters turned rioters who breached the grounds of the Capitol and stopped democracy. But if I have Casey Hunt with me, they have not stopped it, they have paused it, because there is very much a feeling on Capitol Hill from our sources in the room where some senators are gathered in the same room watching this coverage. Some members of Congress gathered together watching this same coverage. There's a feeling, a defiant feeling, that the business of this country will be done, even at nightfall, no matter what it takes. Andrea Mitchell, you are a longtime correspondent in Washington. It goes without saying that there has never been a night like this. What are your sources telling you about what happens next and whether this sacred duty can be
This is a
performed
unique event
by
in
the
American
United
history.
States Congress under these circumstances.
Completely.
Well,
Keep
I
that
just
in
got a
mind.
text from Congresswoman Debbie Dingell from Michigan, and you know how long she has been not only in the Hill, but of course before her, her late husband, John Dingell, was the longest-serving member of Congress when he retired, and she then replaced him in the House. And she says, this has been a total nightmare. I was on the floor. I hear the gunshots, smelled the tear gas, and I will be damned if he will keep us from doing our job. We will go back and do it tonight. I asked, are you doing it tonight? Does it have to be done on the House floor or in the safe location where we know they are together, they are safe? And she says, it will be done on the House floor.
Look at this footage
And I
as
said,
she's
is this
talking.
reportable, and can I attribute it to you? And she said, yes.
Look at what a chaotic, fucking terroristic nightmare has unfolded on our nation's capital. Embarrassing.
She's very close to Governor Whitmer.
Very,
there,
very
and we know
embarrassing.
the threats there that the governor has endured. And there is a strong Michigan contingent, we've been told by law enforcement, to some of the groups who are here today. In any case, the defiance of Debbie Dingell, who has a very good check on the pulse of her fellow Democratic caucus members, is, I think, very, very widespread. We heard this earlier from the senators, according to Pete Williams, who was reporting that they also want to get this done tonight. And I think they're going to try to do it no matter how late they stay up. And as you well know, I covered the Hill. When they have deadlines and they have big business to do at the end of a session, they do stay all night. Health care was passed at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and law enforcement seems to be attempting to clear the deck so that that can take place. We'll keep an eye on that. Keep working your sources, Andrea. I want to turn to
the curfew
Republican
is now in
Congressman
place.
Mark Mullen of Oklahoma, who is still at the Capitol and locked down in his office. Sir, first of all, I'm glad to see that you're okay and you're able to call in. What was your experience today?
Well, first of all, there wasn't any shots that was fired in the House chamber. I know guns were drawn.
All right, this is fun. We've got somebody here who literally is denying reality. So let's go to the next point. BLM and Antifa was literally allowed to run around and destroy private property for months. Trump supporters stormed a Gov building that will get fixed because it's our taxes. Debate then. Drop some knowledge I haven't heard that's actually relevant. First of all, let me just go ahead and point out before I even respond to this objectively untrue statement, that no matter what you are presented with, unlike myself, who changes with the evidence that people can actually see and agree on, no matter what you are presented with, you're very, very, very unlikely to ever concede. So there's really no, like, drop some knowledge, dude, I haven't heard before. Like, there's no knowledge, because any knowledge that you disagree with, you'll call either fake news, or you'll just, like, emotionally react in some weird way to where you block it out. So, second of all, BLM did not riot for months. They rioted for, I think, 3 to 4 days, if I'm correct. The rest of it was marches with signs. Those aren't riots. Those are called protests. Right? You've heard of protests. I think that Trump supporters protest things too, so that's what that's called. They were allowed to run around destroying private property, by the way. If you would recall, they were ran over by cops. They were beaten down by cops. They were shot with rubber bullets by cops. Reporters were shot with rubber bullets by cops. They were pepper sprayed in the face multiple times at point blank by cops. Pretty much everything except live ammunition. So I wouldn't really say that that was them, allowing them and being willy-nilly with letting them go do things. So there's that. Oh my God. Okay, so here we go. We're interested in facts and numbers, not feelings over facts. Bro, if this is true, why did you just conspiratorially assume without any prior evidence that leftists were the ones who caused this disturbance we're seeing here? You don't care about you don't care about facts over feelings. You care about a narrative. That's different. You don't care about anything other than what fits my narrative. It's so obvious. Jesus.
And I said,
Back
guys,
to
because I started yelling, don't shoot, don't shoot. And I hollered at the guys at the other side. I said, you almost got shot. You almost got shot. Are you serious? Are you willing to do this? And most of them calmed down a little bit.
I've made my points.
One of them, he was the agitator. He's the one that was probably the one that got most of them stirred up. Of course, he kept running his mouth, and he's just unreasonable. He's one of the guys you can't be unreasonable or you can't reason with. But we're all, at the end of the day, we have the right to protest, but we don't have the right to destroy public or private property. We don't have the right to go this far. And you should feel strong and be willing to stand your ground for what you believe in. And I believe you have the right to do that. But this is not the America. I've seen this overseas. This is not what we do in this.
By the way, dude, if you really did support Bernie, and this isn't just LARPing, which it very often is, I've seen many fascists be like, listen, I supported Bernie, dude, but like what Trump did here is pretty based. If you really did support Bernie, I want you to know that like there could be a connection error because you're just in chat and I'm on stream here actually talking. So leave a comment on a video or something. If you did support Bernie, you could come on stream and I'll talk to you, dude. I'll talk to you. I'll see exactly if you're real or not. Because if you are real and you did support Bernie and you don't condone this, first of all, I don't know why you assumed maybe it was lefties, but I don't have a problem with that.
That makes you think, you know what? It's time to get on with it. Our position has been known, but this country needs to get on with the peaceful transition.
You know, we're still having the conversation, and I still feel very strongly about our stance. I still believe that there's some real questions about the constitutional authority, about some changes that happened in some of the states, and no question about that. And so
I don't really think he had much of a response to like the narrative
some
point.
electoral votes that are contested too. We do have to get on with our work.
I mean, he probably wasn't a Bernie supporter.
And
they're
the
pretty
demeanor
easy
to
to
which
club.
we present the
Bernie supporter probably wouldn't
may
have
change.
assumed
We're
leftists
still
did this
discussing that. We're
terrorist
actually
attack.
having open discussions among all of us, among both sides right now. But we will move forward with the process. And at the end of the day, this is to make sure that we do have fair and balanced elections. We have elections moving forward. So anytime we have future elections, what separated us from other democracies is people had faith and they believed in their vote and their election and they were fair. And that belief isn't there. But what happened today, what transpired today, is no excuse for that. There is no excuse for what happened today. Zero. And as I said, there was a lot of peaceful protesters. A lot of them came in from Oklahoma that I knew. And
okay, so maybe he didn't leave. I don't know. There could be a delay here, but I just got this. I'm just trying to get y'all to see a different perspective that all career politicians are corrupt. Dude, listen. I know. Okay? Like, I 100% know that all career politicians are corrupt. Like, trust me. I'm a fucking, like, I don't like any of these people. I hate Biden. I hate a lot of people, like, and I differ with a lot of my family and shit there, but I hate all of these motherfuckers for the most part. I support the people.
I guess that's kind of
celebrities.
where I'm asking you, whether you feel that there has been rhetoric that's irresponsible, that
there's been rhetoric
uncorked
irresponsible on both sides. The rhetoric's been irresponsible on both sides. We've seen it from both sides. I mean, there's been some really, really big flames that were flamed that was fanned before President Trump even got into office. Before he was even sworn into office, there was a lot of it going on. We've seen these protests going on, and it's been bubbling. It hasn't been from our side, and that's why I said I have a hard time believing these are actual true Trump supporters, because you haven't seen this from Trump supporters. Trump supporters have been out there too. They've been on the streets. They've been to rallies. They've had conflict with Antifa and the other groups, and it has never went to this point. This is the first time we've ever seen it go to this point. And as I said before, it doesn't.
Thank God we have this great man representing Oklahoma.
For our own actions. And the way you choose to act is you should be held responsible for. And I hope everybody that came in there is held responsible, because a lot of people's lives have changed. There's a lot of law enforcement, a lot of capital.
Almost any of the Democratic primary years would have been better than Biden. Like, Mike probably wouldn't have been, fucking, what Bloomberg? Yeah, that guy, he probably wouldn't have been, but just about anyone else.
Their families' lives have changed. His life has got changed because the first time you discharge a weapon, it changes you. It changes you, and it changes you forever.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's some people out there that's lost a loved one to a daughter, a mother. I don't know how old she was, but there's a family that's going to grieve tonight because of what got out of hand.
Yeah.
And it should have never ever got to this point. This is a dark day for all of us.
I love the
and
language.
I
I really
hope we
do.
all take a
It
deep
got
breath
a little out of hand.
And learn something from
This is basically
but we
a domestic
still need to be
terrorist
passionate.
attack.
You have a right to be passionate.
That's
about
not
what you
getting a little
believe
out of
politically, but we can debate in a better manner than that.
We can. We're better than this. Congressman Mullen, we're glad you're safe. Thank you for your time this evening, sir.
And
Be
reported
safe and
earlier,
keep us
just an
posted
hour or so
on the
ago,
plans,
something about pipe
as
bombs.
Congress
I hope
tries to
that
get
doesn't
about the
fucking come to
business of
reality.
the American people. And let me turn to Kristen Welker. Kristen, I don't know if we've caught up since the president issued his last tweet. What was the thinking behind that? What are you hearing from the senior officials inside the White House tonight?
Well, Savannah, the tweet comes after a number of senior officials here have been pushing him to go further than that video statement that he released earlier today when he again reiterated the false claims of voter fraud, but did urge these protesters, the mob that gathered outside the Capitol, to be peaceful, not to engage in any violence. And so this tweet seems to be the opposite of what some of his top officials were urging him to do, which was to come out and make a statement point blank and say, stand down. This tweet does what he did at the rally.
When he's told to tell people to stand down, he says, stand back and stand by. I mean, we know that route, right?
Flagged by Twitter, Twitter saying that it could incite more violence. So that is the backdrop against which we are seeing that tweet come out. So I would anticipate, Savannah, that you are going to continue behind the scenes here to have a number of his top aides try to push him to say more and, quite frankly, to do more. I can tell you that the world is watching. In fact, we're just seeing a tweet come out from Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, who says Canadians are deeply disturbed and saddened by the attack on democracy in the United States, our closest ally and neighbor. So people are watching what is happening as it unfolds.
If you guys are just tuning in, this is live coverage of an amazingly spectacular disaster that has erupted on the U.S. Capitol. This is Light. Leave a like on the stream and subscribe if you enjoy the content. I really I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is unlike anything in American history.
Going to happen inside the halls of Congress to air that debate and the dispute that they felt needed to be had about the electoral vote count. They wanted to try to convince President Trump that this was, in fact, his last stand, and the hope was that after today, he would be able to move forward. There wasn't a whole lot of optimism that he would essentially abandon his rhetoric, but that supporters would feel as though at least the debate had been had in the halls of Congress. But White House officials acknowledging privately, look, he has lost, and that ultimately he's going to have to acknowledge that. Savannah.
All right.
Okay, so as to the point of, would you want to deal with a country? You see how presidents look when they get out. Well, unfortunately, he signed up for that job of running the country. So if you are going to be the guy that's going to run the country, you got to actually fucking do your job. You don't get to just like make excuses that it like what. So at your job, like if your boss is talking to you and you're trying to tell your boss like it's really fucking hard to do this job, does he just like let you off? As oh okay, well then you don't have to do that, and is necessarily no. You're fired if you don't do what the boss says. Well, if Trump doesn't do what he swore an oath to do, shouldn't he be fired? This is hilarious.
Conversation is what's next? How can they continue this work that was supposed to take place January 6th, the certifying of the electoral vote? Can it continue tonight? Will it continue tonight?
I speculate that it probably will continue tonight.
Members are determined that it will. The logistics of this are still being finalized because obviously we've never been in this situation before, but this has been the focus of the conversations. There's an expectation that they...
Okay, are you a troll, dude? Like, this whataboutism of like, fuck, okay, well, what if I just, like, whataboutism to you, like, well, what about all these children who starve in the world, huh? What do you think about that? Like, that doesn't address the argument. One person killed, yeah, that's kind of bad and shit, wish it didn't happen. What about the 2,000 that are killed in Chicago in a weekend? It's like, dude, first of all, those are not organized crimes. Okay? They're not organized. This is organized. They came here wanting to start some shit. And they damn sure did. Okay, random criminals out of a 330 some odd million people in a country killing people. That's not any party's political prerogative necessarily. That's such a whataboutism. It is hilarious.
Talking to are confident they're going to find some way to demonstrate to the American people that the business of the Congress is going to go on, even in spite of all of this. Savannah.
Casey Hunt, thank you so much. Our coverage
Well, if it
continues
is devil's advocate,
as we look
then
at Washington, D.C. tonight.
You are being a
on
little
night
trolly.
like no other. The United States Capitol is locked down.
Motherfucker.
Protesters stormed the building today, stopping the business of Congress at a critical moment, the moment when under the Constitution they're to certify the electoral votes of the election and ensure the peaceful transfer of power. We are going to turn over our coverage. NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt just ahead. Stay with NBC as we continue to cover this breaking story throughout the night.
It looks like, are they both on break? Is C-SPAN not doing
I wonder
anything?
what the people from other countries, the higher officials, think what this country is coming to be when they're watching us closely, because the electoral votes that counted for Obama being the president, and the people seems like it doesn't count what we do, because the electoral votes made it set.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is happening over there.
The balcony, police with guns drawn inside the house. The violence erupting, one woman fatally shot outside the Capitol, improvised explosive devices found, several people injured, offices vandalized, windows smashed. The National Guard called in to quell the unrest with that city.
No. To clarify, Mike, I never said that all of these people that showed up here, though I do politically disagree with them, I never said that they were all terrorists. I don't do that. I'm talking about the people that committed the violence that we know of. That's who I'm referring to over and over as terrorists. I'm not referring to literally everyone that showed up there. There were people there screaming, "Stop the violence," as well, that were part of the group. I'm not talking about literally everyone.
Stolen, but telling rioters to go home. All of it coming just as Democrats win control of the Senate after the historic election in Georgia. A lot to talk about as we continue our rolling coverage. I want to welcome you back to NBC News coverage of the siege at the U.S. Capitol. Right now, police in Washington enforcing a curfew, driving rioters from the streets and Capitol grounds after securing the inside from those pro-Trump intruders who occupied the Capitol for several hours. Officials telling us a short time ago that one person shot inside the Capitol by law enforcement has died. All this taking place as the House and Senate met to formally count the certified electoral ballots that will make Joe Biden the next president. Our Casey Hunt is on Capitol Hill. Casey, bring us up to date.
Anyone
Lester,
just tuning in, this is
absolutely
live
stunning
coverage
images today.
of the incident at the U.S. Capitol today. Please like the stream and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Thank you.
Agencies had to be called in after a number of them not only breached the building, but breached the very floor of the House and of the Senate as they were conducting this business of trying to count the Electoral College votes.
Yeah, I was
normally a very straightforward process.
I was literally watching just to see, like, you know, what was going to unfold in the Senate, and or I guess the hearing overall. Like with, you know, I was watching them all give their speeches and whatnot, and this started to happen like live right in the middle of that, and they had to leave. It was insane.
Were on the walls of the Capitol, as well as
I had to jump on the stream real
one
quick
point.
after that.
Tonight, stunning images as rioters supporting President Trump overrun the Capitol, scuffling with police. On the floor of the House, officers with guns drawn, with protesters just outside the door. Here you see rioters trying to break down a door, and you hear a gunshot. Over in the Senate, protesters breaching what's supposed to be the highly secure Senate floor, abruptly stopping the counting of electoral votes.
It really
Some
does show
taking
you how
photos
fragile
on the
it all
Senate
really
dais,
is.
Others shouting and pushing past officers to get inside. Elsewhere, this man sitting with his feet up behind a desk in Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office.
This fucking
Police
guy,
placing the
dude.
Capitol on
This
lockdown.
fucking guy.
Was declared.
This guy is
It was
gonna
clear that the
fucking.
crowd
Oh my
was
god, he's gonna tell this like an old legend campfire story to pass down on for generations from the rest of his life, dude.
Some wearing gas
That's
masks.
literally his crowning achievement.
The U.S. Capitol today.
Top House Republican Kevin McCarthy condemning
Are we
what
back?
he was seeing.
This is so un-American. I condemn any of this violence. This is not the American
Are we
way.
back?
This is not protected.
Let
by
me
the
know in
First
chat
Amendment.
if I'm back. I
This
think the
must stop
stream just
now.
died for a second.
Multiple Democratic and Republican lawmakers urged President Trump to appear on camera to tell the protesters to leave. Instead, he later tweeted, "I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful, no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue." The president-elect then imploring President Trump to speak.
At their best,
I don't know what happened.
the
The
words
internet
of a
is so
president
crazy
can
with all this going on, I
inspire.
guess.
At their worst, they can incite. And therefore, I call on President Trump to go on national television
Damn,
now
this motherfucker's asleep today.
to fulfill his oath and defend the Constitution and demand an end to this siege.
By about 4:15 this afternoon, this message from the White House.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you.
See, that statement not
See,
going
he says
far
that.
enough for many on Capitol Hill tonight.
And which, you know, that was already kind
That's
of
right,
a
Lester.
watered
Many
down
Republicans
statement.
urging
But
the-
then later he tweets shit riling on the reason why everyone's there again.
This situation down and to make it easier to have a
such a
peaceful transfer
schizophrenic
of power
approach.
to Joe Biden. Lester.
All right, Casey Hunt, thank you. And one of those
Bipolar.
caught in today's assault was Congressman Mike Gallagher, a Wisconsin Republican. He joins us tonight on the phone. First of all, Congressman, are you someplace safe and well?
I am. Yeah, we're kind of sheltering in place here, but I honestly never thought I'd be barricading the doors and watching what I saw happen today in the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah, I mean, some of the images are stunning, and you saw them firsthand. Can you walk us through what happened? I know the Senate and House had split apart for the purposes of debating some objections. When did you realize something was amiss?
Well, it was almost simultaneous with the debate over the certification of Arizona's electors when the protesters started to gather at the foot of the Capitol, and things quickly descended into violence. You know, you heard multiple flashbangs being deployed, which was presumably the Capitol Police trying to get the protesters to back off. The protesters were violently clashing with the police. Earlier in the day, one of the buildings have been evacuated when protesters breached the perimeter, and then somehow they breached the security perimeter of the Capitol itself, and they started...
Just to clear something up in the chat, BLM's, the burning down of the Target and I believe the Wendy's, those were not called by mainstream media peaceful protests. The movements after those riots were called peaceful protests because that's what they were.
What has happened today? I mean, someone died in the United States Capitol in America today. I mean, this is unacceptable. And I think, if nothing else, the objectors need to stop playing this dangerous game. We need to reconvene tonight when order is restored. The objectors need to stand down. We need to certify the results of the election. And Donald Trump is ultimately going to have to concede. That's the only way we avoid stuff like this in the future. As a Republican,
I don't think he'll ever
it bums
concede.
me out that we lost the presidential election, but such is life. When you lose, you take a second, you look in the mirror, and you figure out how you can do better next time, and that's what we need to do as a party right now.
So, Congressman, it appears they have secured the Capitol now, but that doesn't change the belief in the people we're seeing here that this election was somehow stolen, and the president probably didn't help things today by his remarks.
So it seems
where does
as
that leave
though,
us
as of
tomorrow and
right
the next
now,
day?
the Capitol has been
Well, I
secured.
think the prudent move, once we all say it together that the election's over and we support the peaceful transition of power, it's to not dismiss the concerns of election fraud that we've seen in multiple states. I think many states, including my home state of Wisconsin, need their state legislatures to do a version of what Florida did after the 2000 election. There were certainly changes that were made at the last second in the midst of the pandemic, and we've had a massive increase in absentee balloting. And I think it's fair for the legislatures to take a step back and say, here's what worked, here's what didn't work, and here's how we can give our citizens confidence in the integrity of the election. But that's a separate question than the question of whether Congress should or even has the authority to overturn the results of the state election. I mean, I don't see a reading of that anywhere in the Constitution. That is a recipe.
Okay, guys, so it seems like, honestly, as of right now, we're going to get probably the most amount of news we're going to get for, unless something insane ensues in like an hour or so, we're going to get the most amount of news that we're going to get for this specific event, because it seems like they have taken control of the Capitol. If something else ensues, I will 100% be back here the second it does, as I'm going to be continuing to watch this closely. But subscribe if you liked the stream. Like the stream if you like the stream. Leave a comment if you have something to say. This has been Light, and I enjoy you guys sticking with me.